shout out to Tiger Bait and Mike Scarborough and the crew who broke the news yesterday afternoon that Walker Howard was putting his name into the transfer portal as LSU and the fan base reacted and started to melt immediately. Look, I think this is some news that probably took the LSU coaching staff and Brian Kelly by surprise. Kelly, of course, asked afterwards of the bowl game last week what he expected with his quarterback room going into spring, and he said he 100% expected to have all three guys on the roster going into spring. To see Walker Howard's name go in just a little over a week after making that statement had to be shocking to Kelly and the staff. Maybe not seeing his name go into the portal, but when that conversation started with Kelly and the Howards about leaving LSU, that had to be something that they were not expecting, or at least caught them by surprise. I know that by judging on social media and my text messages yesterday and the phone ringing yesterday, everybody out there is shocked. One thing I can confirm, and I can confirm directly from the source, is that Walker Howard is not enrolled at TCU right now. That is false. Now, TCU is a major player in what is going to be a couple of schools that Howard is going to choose from. I believe that TCU will, be on that list and probably at the top of that list and be a front runner. But the rumor that he is already enrolled at TCU is not true. What I can tell you is that his phone is absolutely going ballistic. His phone, his family's phone, people around him are being lit up right now about what is going to be possible for Howard and where he's going to go. Like I said, I expect him to go to TCU. I think that is the leader right now as far as landing him. But I can also confirm that behind the scenes, the one coach that is working and making this very difficult to make it a slam dunk for Howard to move on is exactly who you think it is. It's exactly the coach who just landed the number one recruiting class in the country and lost a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that's over in Tuscaloosa. Nick Saban is now recruiting with NIL behind his back and can openly talk this stuff in the market. And when you're talking about Bryce Young coming off of $1 million a year salary at Alabama over the last 2 years. Remember, Saban was in the Texas Coaches Association a couple of years ago before Bryce Young even won the Heisman Trophy and said that he's got $1 million committed to that spot in Young already. What's that mean for that position in Tuscaloosa? It means that if he's got to go out and get a quarterback and he's got to negotiate with NIL, then that's on the table. And he's also Nick Saban. So Bama is making this tougher than I believe everybody seems to think this is for Walker Howard, that it's just a slam dunk, that he's going to TCU, going to play with Besh, go to a place that really made an impact on him in recruiting. I mean, TCU was a school that Walker Howard was thinking a ton about coming down the stretch. And LSU was always a sentimental place for Howard. His mother, his late mother, who passed away, went to LSU, was an athlete at LSU. His dad was a quarterback there. He has gone to campus his entire life watching LSU sports. His sister's on the volleyball team. I mean, there's all types of ties to LSU. And that was something that he wanted to be a part of. But behind the scenes, people would tell you that was close to Howard that, man, TCU's giving LSU a lot to talk about or a lot to think about. Just a lot of stuff happening right now. With Walker Howard,
I was wondering what was going on over there. What that man's reading right, something's live is going on.
It's just, it's for everybody to think that it's just TCU and that he's definitely going to TCU. I would back off that narrative a bit. I would tell you that it seems like that would be the leader, but there are schools that are giving Walker Howard something to think about.
He can't do that.
Alabama is one of them, and Georgia would be another.
Georgia's got Carson Beck.
They do. Yeah, and look, from an internal standpoint,
Walker's ready now.
This is surprising. This is surprising. Personally, to me, the news when I got it, actually Blake Abear, who cuts our grass over here.
Oh, we're deep in it.
At the studio and at the Noodle, Abear's Lawn Service, the best. Look our boy up. He's on Facebook. Texted me, and he just texted me. He said, gut shot. And I was like,
what?
And I'm like sitting in the St. Thomas More bleachers, and I'm like, huh? And he's like, the Howard news. And I'm like, what? And when he said that, I thought to myself, like, is he talking about Walker Howard leaving? And then, I mean, just, yeah, right. Just going nuts. And my immediate reaction was that I was shocked. I really was. I thought for sure, like we had said leading up to yesterday, I envisioned that they would make it through spring with all three guys. I thought that, all three guys felt as if they can play and start at this level for this school, and they were going to go through the competition and just kind of see where it shook out and would have a good reading on who the top two guys were going to be going into fall, and whoever the odd man out was most probably going to leave. I mean, I thought for sure that they were not going to, really get into fall camp with all three guys. And I always thought that out of all three of them, the program really valued and wanted to protect Walker Howard the most from leaving, because of what they thought about him. They felt about him. I mean, it was middle of the season during the fall when Brian Kelly was asked, and we were sitting right next to Jacques when he asked the question. And Jacques was just curious about the freshman's development. What's going on with Walker Howard? And Brian Kelly's comment on that was pretty telling. I would say, and this is Kelly, and I'm quoting directly from Brian Kelly in the middle of the year, what he said about Walker Howard. I would say every day that he is with us, there's more knowledge because I'm in meetings with the quarterbacks. He has a great football knowledge. He's mentally strong. He believes he is better than every other quarterback we have, which is awesome. I love that. I don't mean that in any other way than he has just the kind of makeup, which is what you want. He respects everybody in the room, but yeah, he continues to develop. We have a good feeling about him. And when he said that, he looked up with a smirk as to say, I'm not even telling you how good I really think he is. I mean, after a head coach to say that about a freshman quarterback in the middle of the season where he's got a room of talented guys, I thought when we left there, I told Katie, Walker Howard's the future of the program because the head coach just told you so. So to see him leaving before his second spring practice, the first of which he early enrolled out of high school, is and was yesterday surprising to see. But for Walker Howard and where he expected the competition to be, I guess, I would guess, is not where he kind of saw it when he envisioned being here. And now he's opened it back up. And like I said, TCU feels like it's the leader, but it's no slam dunk by any means, because some of the best recruiters in the college football world, Kirby Smart, Nick Saban, are blowing him up.
Open season.
And they're doing it with money in their pocket. And in Alabama, an open job. And that is nerve-wracking. Because if you've got to watch Walker Howard develop in Tuscaloosa, that is going to be miserable. Miserable for an LSU fan. I mean, and Saban's going to make it tough. Saban, he needs a quarterback. If he goes with Milroe, he's got to totally blow up the offensive system that Lane Kiffin came in there and established back in 2014. I mean, that offensive system has been there for almost a decade now. And if you go to Milroe, who is a beautiful looking athlete and is a really good quarterback, you would have to change up your entire offensive philosophy of who you have been and won Heisman trophies with and won national championships with. I mean, the total identity of the Alabama program has shifted from Saban's defense to his Heisman Award-winning offense, whether it was running backs, wide receivers, or quarterbacks. And he doesn't want to go through that shift. If you bring Walker Howard in, you plug and play exactly what you've been doing with Tua, Mac Jones, Bryce Young, the next in line. And that's what he's selling with NIL cash and rings. I say all that to say I do believe that TCU is the leader in the clubhouse, but when you got these guys that are desperate, Saban's a little desperate for a quarterback.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like he's in a position where he's got the pedal to the metal on this thing, man. I mean, he is full throttle recruiting openly Walker Howard to come play at Alabama with NIL money behind his back. I mean, that's got to make a lot of people nauseated. And if he can't swing, Kirby Smart's in the other room with 2 rings back-to-back that's telling him, you want to come to Athens and be king? Ask Stetson Bennett what it's like to win a national championship in that town. You saw Stetson Bennett didn't show up to the press conference the morning after the game?
They sent Brock Bowers.
Where was Steady?
Oh, knuckles deep.
Searching
for that ring.
How many?
Yeah.
Neck deep.
He was at a Hollywood party.
Yeah.
Like he was partying with A-listers.
It was showtime.
I mean, it was.
I got a math test in the morning.
I'm not going to that press conference.
I'm about to go about the Lakers.
No.
You got to go to a press conference at 9. No, I do not.
Joe Burrow.
I'm not going to that press conference.
Sean Payton. I'm not going. Yeah, you're not under our
let
watch
him know.
anymore. Yeah, I'm good. I'm over. It's over.
I mean, Kirby, I'm not going. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
I don't control you anymore.
I got it.
And he's 25.
Yeah, he's a grown man. That man's eyeballs are probably this way and that way. Like, Stetson, actually, don't show up. You're good. Roddy Rance with the sunglasses on.
It's going to be interesting to see how the next couple of days come and play out.
Can we put to bed the narrative that is going around of Walker Howard's not that good? Like, that's what everybody's – obviously, LSU fans are grieving. Like, I get it. You lost the prodigal son, apparently. Everything that LSU has done up to this point was building toward Walker Howard, right? Like, Brian Kelly had a plan to lead up to where it seemed like everything was in place. And maybe he doubled down on what happened last year, which was a success, bringing all 3 into spring. And it seemed like that same kind of I don't want to say contingency plan, but what he did last year, he tried to double down essentially and say, I'm going to do the same thing, try to bring all 3 into spring. And Walker kind of saw the opportunity where, all right, if you want to play a game of chicken, I'll jump. And that's kind of what seemed to have burned the coaching staff a little bit by thinking everything's all good. You can compliment me in the media all you want, but when you look around the landscape of the SEC, there's 2 places that don't have an incumbent returning, and then there's 1 place in Texas that doesn't have anybody coming back. So if you're Walker Howard, and you can make it NIL if you want, but I really think this is a competition for playing time. He's ready to go now. He wants the ball in his hand.
No, I think that he was, I think when he envisioned being on LSU's campus, he looked at his second spring and thought that it was going to be a 2-quarterback race. Really, and I can't speak on why another guy would send him out. I am shocked that Walker Howard is in the transfer portal. And, like Peter says, this show has gotten everything that they predicted on the roster to be wrong. Who's gotten it right? Okay. I know that this is a scoreboard game that we're in, and it's a lot easier to point out when you've been wrong, but I mean, who had Walker Howard leaving before his second spring?
I mean, Eli Holstein has to be pissed.
Or he's just got to be looking over, just kind of watching what happens.
But he left STM because Walker Howard was coming.
The boogeyman.
Like, now it's just I'm at Bama and Walker Howard might be coming here too.
Early enrolled. He might be. I mean,
he did early enrolled.
But let's not dig the grave. Let's not put the dirt on Eli Holstein. He's looking around and saying, "Hey, I could go home."
Yeah, but we won't Walker back.
That's my biggest. I don't want to say grievance, but if you're the LSU coaching staff, you bar the door, right? You don't let Walker Howard leave the room. I'd imagine he talked to the staff before this happened, right? Yeah. But if that's even a conversation piece, you go full. Who was it for the Los Angeles Clippers with Mark Cuban? DeAndre Jordan. You're like, you're not leaving. Like, we're gonna sign you or whatever it takes. You're not leaving. We're gonna figure this out in this room today. We're staying together. I don't know what it takes to figure it out, but you're not the one that's leaving. I'll call in the other two that are on the roster. We're all gonna sit down, and it's gonna be one of you two, not him. Like, he's safe, and so y'all have to figure it out. It's the Joker. I'm gonna break this pool stick.
Fight to the death.
There's one job opening, and there's 3 people in here, and one's protected. I just don't understand how, when you see the future of LSU and what it was made to be, you almost mortgage your 2023 on Walker and just be like, okay, if you want to leave, you'll start. Like, I would fold like a cheap suit.
Well, I mean, that's why they're not giving you the $10 million to run the program.
And I think it's a little bit of hubris on Brian Kelly's part and the coaching staff of being like, okay, fine, go see what you can get in the portal. If you want to go. But at some point, you have to recognize the talent that's there. Like, you can say Walker Howard's not ready, Walker Howard's not good. Turn on the tape. He is as college ready, NFL ready as his stepping stones were imminent. This man's going to be in the NFL. He's going to be a first-round pick. He is as good as you can make in high school, which I know it doesn't always translate, but the way he was playing, he looks ready-made for the prime time. Ready to be in a Power 5, put me in, coach. I'm going to go ball.
No, I think that, for him to leave before spring, either somebody is telling him something at another school, right, where it's your time, or he just saw the writing on the wall where it was going to be, one of the other 2 guys. I thought he was going to compete. I really did. I thought it was going to come down to at least a spring where they would find out the pecking order of the group going into the true offseason, and then you would see some shakeup. I thought that's when the shakeup would happen.
But from his vantage point, right, he can't waste the spring. If he wants to be the starter somewhere else, he needs those spring reps. Like, whether it be at TCU, Alabama, Georgia, he needs to get in there now because there is competition. I would say at the latter 2 in the SEC, like, they have guys. They have Jalen Milroe. They have Ty Simpson at Alabama, Eli Holstein. It's not like he's going to, like, plug and play. The only place I would think is plug and play is TCU. But if he wants to be able to compete for a spot at with the big time programs, I need to get in there now. So that's why I don't think he waited until the spring to make a decision. He was, okay, I see what we brought back, and whatever those conversations were in the room where it's open competition and obviously name Jane Daniels as starter, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think Jane Daniels was the best thing that happened to LSU in 2022, but it might turn out to be one of a double-edged sword for 2023, where you get what you reap what you sow a little bit. And if you're Walker Howard, okay, I see what the picture being painted. So
from LSU standpoint, there's no way you can tell Daniels not to come back. Like, there's no way. I mean, after what he accomplished this season and what the quarterback position means in the sport, there's no way you can tell his production level and what he did as a transfer in this season to not come back if he was thinking about it. And they had to know deep in their, kind of in the back of their brain, thinking, wow, this is going to affect that room. I mean, we were talking about it at the time. I mean, this is a problem. This is a good problem, but this is going to be an issue in that room at some point when Daniels announced that he was coming back. And then Nussmeier goes to Atlanta and performs like he does and puts that film out there and has people buzzing and talking about, the quarterback room at LSU. And, all the while, Walker Howard's sitting there thinking, now we know kind of what's going to be next for me. And is it at LSU? And yesterday he landed on the decision that it's not. And I think that is, surprising to a lot of people. I mean, look, people talking about where we stood on Walker Howard in the middle of the season and people talking about how Howard was performing. I mean, that was coming directly from staff members. I mean, people around the media were hearing the same thing. I mean, the quote that I read from Brian Kelly, that's not an inside source. That's not relationships that people build within the media. It's a head coach getting up on the podium telling you how he feels about the guy. I mean, he doesn't have to say that. He didn't have to get up there and make that glowing of a statement about a freshman quarterback if he really doesn't believe it. I mean, there was no threat at that point for Howard, from Kelly's standpoint, to think that he was ever going to leave, or at least not within the next 6 months. So he gave you a true feeling of how he felt about the guy. He did it even after the bowl game when asked about the 3 quarterbacks. 100%. I believe that they're going to be here. I absolutely 100% believe that all 3 quarterbacks are going to be with us. And all of them we've had conversations with and feel that's the direction we're going. That was Brian Kelly last week. So, I mean, for people to say that this is something that everybody should have known, I mean, this is something that took the staff by surprise for it to happen as quick as it did. I don't think it would have been a surprise post-spring, but the timing of it is a little surprising for all of us, I think. Not just the fan base, the people that were reacting yesterday and continue to react, and our reaction here. I think that there's probably a little bit of numb in the coach's office. I mean, I know Joe Sloan was in love with Walker Howard from just a prospect quarterback standpoint. I mean, the evaluation that he made on him in high school to having the opportunity to coach him early as an enrollee last season through his freshman year. I mean, that was something that he really was excited about. I wonder what his feeling is this morning, knowing that he's still got talent in the room, but you lose the young gun